Headed to SoFi Stadium? Skip the traffic and ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express, your direct $2 base fare round-trip ride from the Culver City Transit Center at Westfield, Culver City. Buses run on weekend game days every 20 minutes starting 3 hours before kickoff, with return service beginning at the start of the third quarter. And guess what else? We're hiring. Join our team and help keep the community moving. Visit culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500 for info on your next ride to the game or maybe your next job.
Doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after Guy Benson at 3 and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. We're broadcasting live today from the Universal Hilton Hotel in Universal City at the Over the Edge event. Big fundraiser today for the Union Rescue Mission, the number one organization helping the homeless here in Los Angeles. It has been an amazing day here, starting first thing this morning with Vice President of URM Richard Newcomb rappelling off the side of the 25-story hotel on live television on Fox 11 this morning with reporter Sandra Endo. The event here raising funds and awareness for the great work being done at the Union Rescue Mission, which is getting people off the streets of Skid Row, including women and children, and doing so with the highest possible rating from Charity Navigator. Later this hour, I'll be joined by Mark Hood, the CEO of the Union Rescue Mission, who is also the co-host of the Just Help One radio show and podcast, heard every Thursday night at 6 p.m. right here on your favorite station, 790 KBC, and on-demand podcast. Now, if you're driving by on the 101 freeway here in Universal City and see people rappelling down the side of the building, now you know what's happening here. The Over the Edge event, whether you want to actually go over the edge or not, you can still support this event and the Union Rescue Mission by making a donation at urm.org. That's URM for unionrescuemission.org. Let's get right down to business here now with stocks ending the week on a positive note following the release of a new reading on inflation, which came in line with analysts' expectations. The market also took in the latest readings on consumer confidence and President Trump's announcement on new tariffs. The Dow came in for a closing gain today of 300 points after 3 days of losses. We're back to 46,247. The S&P 500 of 39 at 6,644. And the NASDAQ of 99 points at 22,484. All three of the major averages did end the week lower by less than 1%. It was a rough week for cryptos, and we're going to be focusing on that here in just a moment. Mixed day for tech stocks. Coming up later this hour, the biggest name on Wall Street when it comes to tech these days, and that is Dan Ives, Managing Director and Senior Equity Research Analyst at Wedbush Securities, which happens to be headquartered right here in Southern California. He's also chair of Eightco Holdings. Dan Ives will be joining us live later this hour. It was a big week for gold, which hit a record high above $3,800 an ounce, and you see the silver hit a new 14-year high above $46 an ounce. Platinum has popped above $1,600 an ounce. We did get a new reading from the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge, we're told, showing prices still sticky, but the report is not likely to take the Fed off its course for more rate cuts this year. The Personal Consumption Expenditures Index, which excludes volatile food and energy prices on a core basis, showed inflation rose 2.9% for the month of August. That was in line with most analysts' expectations and holding the same level we saw in July. It was just about a week ago that the Fed cut rates for the first time this year and predicted 2 more cuts for the year, which would mean reductions in meetings in late October and early December. Cryptocurrencies shedding roughly $300 billion in value this week as a wave of leveraged bets unraveled, battering the sector's biggest tokens and dragging market sentiment to its weakest point since early summer. ETH, as we call it, the world's second largest crypto, led the rout with the steepest weekly decline since June. The token has dropped about 12%, sliding below the 4,000 mark, a level traders had widely seen as a crucial line of support. Joining us live now, one of the top crypto analysts in America, and that is Eleanor Terrett, who does a great podcast, the Crypto in America podcast, business journalist, and frequent contributor to Mottek On Money. Eleanor Terrett, thank you very much for joining us live this afternoon.
Hey, Frank. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Joining me.
You're terrific. However it is, it's always great to have you with us here, Eleanor. And you've been tracking this this sell-off this weekend, the cryptos. Let me take a look. We see Bitcoin right now. Let's see, hovering at around 109,000. ETH at just above 4,000. What happened this week to the cryptos?
That's right. So amazingly, we see crypto still kind of on a correlation with some of this macro data, right? And you mentioned that in the beginning of the hit, right? So you said inflation, PCE came in slightly stronger than expected. Well, maybe on a par for what Wall Street was expecting, but still a little stickier, rising 2.9% for the month of August. We're also seeing a stronger dollar than usual, also stronger gold. But I think some of those macro headwinds are having an effect on crypto. We actually had Zach Pandel, who is a former economist for Goldman Sachs, on the podcast this week, and he's now the head of research at Grayscale Investments. They run a big ETF outfit on Wall Street, one of the first Bitcoin spot ETF issuers. And he was saying, it's all about the macro data when it comes to Bitcoin right now. You're seeing a lot of these alts, even though Ethereum is right up there. It is in the top three. It's obviously number two, but it does follow Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is a boat that lifts all tides. Everything follows Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin falls, usually everything else kind of follows, right? So that's kind of the picture that we're seeing right now. When Bitcoin's weaker, everything else seems to follow. And also, historically, Frank, September is a weaker month for Bitcoin. If you look at the trending charts, September is typically a lower month for Bitcoin. So I'm talking to some, traders, nothing to worry about. Healthy pullback is what I'm being told. But that's what we're seeing right now. And Bitcoin, as I'm seeing it right now, is about 109,000. So definitely below that 110,000 mark. But we'll see where we are next week.
On the air live with Eleanor Charrett, crypto expert, business journalist, and co-host of the Crypto in America podcast. Seen some write-ups today asking, is the crypto summer over? Has it come to an end given this chill we've seen this week? Of course, we saw Bitcoin hit a record high not too long ago, just about a month or two ago, above 124,000. Now, as you said, it's around 109.5 here. ETH, which had that pullback and run up and now back down to about 4,000. You think it is a seasonal thing here, or is there something else going on?
Yeah, I think, and we got to remember, right, Frank, and I've said this on the show before, let's compare it to the stock market here. I mean, cryptocurrency, it doesn't have an opening bell and it doesn't have a closing bell, right? It trades 24/7 and it's very volatile. A healthy pullback in the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average is not a healthy pullback in the cryptocurrency market. So, it's investors beware, right? When you invest in crypto, you're going to expect it to be volatile. So some of these pullbacks, I think I said this on the show once, about a 40% drawdown in Bitcoin is considered a healthy bull cycle, right? That's a lot. That would have Wall Street investors fleeing if that happened to Apple stock or Tesla stock. But this is crypto. So, seasoned traders, seasoned investors are looking at these prices and they're thinking, this is child's play. So really, not too much to worry about. But you're looking at some of the other prices here. I'm looking at XRP. That hit a high of well over 350 earlier this year, and now you're looking at it down to about $2.77. Solana about $200. Some of these big asset managers, they're rolling out crypto index ETF funds now. We saw an approval last week for Grayscale. I mentioned that earlier. We had Zach on, and they had an approval for GDLC, which is the crypto index fund, and that tracks the top 5 cryptocurrencies, Frank. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. And this is the first time that the SEC has allowed any sort of investor dabbling in any assets beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So we've seen this progress being made over this past year with the Trump administration coming in and an embrace of crypto that's beyond sort of the Bitcoin and Ethereum narrative that we saw under the Gensler SEC. So there's progress being made here, and if you look towards next month, the SEC is going to, I believe, if you look at some of the predictions from the Bloomberg guys who I tend to follow, James Seyfert and Eric Balchunas, for ETF analysts over at Bloomberg, they're tracking a whole wave of approvals potentially by the SEC for single product ETFs that, from XRP to Solana to potentially Dogecoin. These single product ETFs that will get approved in October. So, you could see that changing the price, giving a potential boost to the price there next month. So, I don't know if crypto summer is over. It's very cyclical. You just have to remember that, it goes up and it goes down, right?
That's right. We've said that you heard it right here. See it tonight, read about it tomorrow, but hear it now on Mottek On Money on 790 KABC. Speaking fluent crypto with us is Eleanor Terrett, crypto expert, business journalist, and co-host of the Crypto in America podcast. We're at the Union Rescue Mission Over the Edge event. It looks like the cryptos went over the edge this week. And what about WorldCoin? We're going to be talking to Dan Ives here, who's also chair of AITCO Holdings, which is big on WorldCoin. What about WorldCoin?
Yeah. So AITCO Holdings, WorldCoin. I mean, let's just back up a little bit, right? I mean, those are hot right now. Like I said, the DApps, right? The digital asset treasury companies. Those are just. You mentioned Dan Ives before. I heard you say his name. He's such a great guy. Known him for a long time. I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. But again, with this sort of digital asset treasury company narrative, right? I know sort of they've expanded beyond sort of the WorldCoin narrative, but WorldCoin is right. ORBS. Taking a look at stock right now. I don't know if you have it up on your side of the screen.
Yeah, AITCO Holdings down to 64 cents, 11.49. And I don't have the quote on WorldCoin, but take a look.
Had a rough day. Yeah. Had a rough day today. Down 5%. That's right. Getting in a hot new crypto side hustle. Well, I will be interested to see what Dan attributes to that. It's been a rough day for the markets. I think a rough week for the markets in general. But I do want to tell you about Vanguard, Frank, because I don't know if you saw my tweet today, but I broke some news this morning that Vanguard, the second largest asset manager in the world behind BlackRock, and I believe it's the largest mutual fund product issuer in the world, they are warming up when it comes to crypto. Now, they stayed very much on the sidelines when it comes to digital assets, when others like BlackRock, Fidelity Investments, Charles Schwab have been leading the charge on Wall Street when it comes to crypto. Vanguard stayed very conservative. You think of like the Bogle mindset, Jack Bogle, who was the founder of basically the ETF, right? I think he founded Vanguard, but he was a very conservative investor, had a very conservative mindset when it came to setting up Vanguard. And they kind of, the people who led the company after him, they followed through with that investing mindset. And so they stayed away from digital assets, even when others were really jumping in feet first. But today, this morning, I broke the news that Vanguard is looking at offering crypto exposure to third-party ETFs. So we're not sure which products yet, but the ETFs on the market to clients on its brokerage platform. So they're not looking at doing original issuances. So they're not looking at copying BlackRock and coming out with their own ETF products. But they are looking at potentially, and I'm told that they're close to offering this to their clients, exposure to some of those crypto ETFs, because like I said before, they just are they're so popular. There's so much client demand, and I'm told that it's a mix of, they've had preliminary conversations with stakeholders and with clients, and they're just hearing, we want exposure to these assets. They are they're popular. Obviously, they're popular in the pop culture and political conversation. But asset managers and wealth advisors, they're advising that you put, a bigger allocation. It's not a big allocation. I believe the recommended is between 2 and 5% still, maybe as high as 10%, depending on your advisor. But it's becoming more and more common for, as an alternative asset, cryptocurrency to be, included in these in your portfolio.
Yep.
So it's really exciting. It's a big leap for Vanguard, but also it's a big step for crypto, and the crypto world is jazzed about it.
Yeah, congratulations on that scoop with Vanguard eyeing a crypto ETF access for brokerage clients. The world's second largest asset manager, Vanguard, preparing to allow access to crypto ETFs on its brokerage platform. That is certainly big news, and we see that tweet that you put out, or that X that you put out early today on that big news. So congratulations on that scoop, Eleanor. What about the other ancillary equities related to cryptos? We have quite a few important folks, investors here at this reception that I'm attending here right now, the Union Rescue Mission Over the Edge event, and people are really tuned into what's happening here, of course, with cryptos and the financial markets. What about these various stocks, Strategy, for example, and Circle? They also had a rough week this week, and Bitmine, Immersion, and the list goes on. What are your thoughts on those here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, something that I picked up from our interview this week with Zach was that potentially ETF issuers are actually thinking about maybe putting these kinds of digital asset treasury companies into an ETF portfolio, right? Like an ETF that tracks the companies that hold these assets in their treasuries, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't think that's necessarily new. I actually believe that Wise might already be doing that. But just to show you the level of interest there in this strategy, and it's not just Bitcoin, right? You mentioned strategy, you mentioned Bitmine. Bitmine's focusing on Ether. I believe that's Tom Lee's company. Michael Saylor's obviously, he started this whole trend with Bitcoin, but it's also Solana. You saw Pantera Capital. Dan Moorhead. He's very well known in the space, in the digital asset space, but also in the he's a big traditional. He's known among TradFi giants as well. Big into Solana, and I hear XRP treasury companies are also potentially being, floated as another means of investment vehicle. So it's interesting, but depending on who you talk to, though, I'm reminded of my work with Charlie Gasparino, who you and I know very well. He talks about irrational exuberance, and just how that ends. I'm not entirely sure. We've had a couple people on the podcast come up and say, keep buying an asset, and just keep buying and you never stop. Where does that leave you? So it'll be interesting to watch. But is the crowd that you're there with, Frank? Are they are they crypto people? Are they TradFi people? Are they looking to get into crypto? I'm curious what kind of crowd you're seeing there.
They're smart people. And philanthropic people here. Right down the list. All good people supporting the Union Rescue Mission here at the Over the Edge event. So they're all interested in supporting Union Rescue Mission. Most importantly, that's the common thread here. And of course, hope that their portfolios do well, whether it's crypto or stocks or bonds or what have you. And I know you attend a lot of the crypto conferences. What is the biggest topic of discussion these days? I follow you on the social media. Eleanor, you were at the Plaza Hotel last night in New York. How was that? And what any takeaways from there on any of the other recent events?
Oh, that's right. So, last night was actually a fundraiser at the Plaza Hotel for Coin Center, which is a think tank in Washington, D.C. They also kind of act as a sort of a trade association. But, yeah, they had an event last night where Hester Peirce, the SEC commissioner, she's also head of the crypto task force, she had a wonderful keynote speech, and you'll love this, Frank. I feel like because you obviously know who Hester is. I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with the SEC, right, and how anti-crypto they were under the Biden administration, and how that script has flipped just so dramatically in the last year. And to the point where, Hester Peirce shows up to this dinner last night wearing a T-shirt that had software code written on it, and for your listeners that don't know, might not be familiar with that, it's just a series of like numbers and letters, right? Like JavaScript almost, you could you could call it. And it's, basically an endorsement of, her endorsement for DeFi, for decentralized finance. And she gave this wonderful speech on stage where she just completely made fun of the entire industry, very tongue-in-cheek, and all of its stereotypes, sort of like the crypto bros and like the lawyers and, the sort of the influencer types. And it really was just so accurate and very funny. And she kind of said at the end, she said, I'm not going to win any friends after this speech. But, for a long time we were, I was trying my best in Washington, D.C., but, I couldn't convince my colleagues to get on board with crypto and really make them see, the merits of, blockchain technology and what you guys have been building. So I apologize for that. And I thought that was quite, quite poignant. She kind of apologized for, the way that the SEC had viewed and sort of been treating the industry, I guess, for, under the Biden administration with a regulation by enforcement. So that was very interesting. Conference-wise, Frank, Korea Blockchain Week happened last week. That was a big one. I unfortunately couldn't make it out there. I'm waiting on my U.S. passport still. As you know, I became a citizen recently, so still waiting on that so I can travel outside of the country. I'll be in D.C. next week for Bitcoin in D.C. It's a smaller event focused on policy and regulation around Bitcoin. A lot of policymakers in D.C. will be there. Michael Saylor will be there as a headliner. And yeah, so we're kind of winding down to the end of the year. keeping an eye on the news cycle. You know what would be an interesting one for your listeners too is the 401k story, right? We saw that earlier this year. Trump opened up the 401k market to alternate investments, including crypto. The House Financial Services Committee wrote a letter earlier this week to Paul Atkins, the SEC chair, urging him to, kind of get a move on and, lay out some guidelines on how that might look, because obviously you need sort of a framework from Congress, not like a law or anything, but the SEC. Not like I'm not sure if you need like rules passed or not for that, but you kind of just need a framework to kind of go on that just to see, because none of this has ever been done before.
Eleanor, you're terrific. Thank you very much for that comprehensive update on all things crypto today. I look forward to your next update here. Eleanor Terrett, crypto expert, business journalist, and co-host of the Crypto in America podcast. Eleanor, thank you very much for joining us, and hope to speak with you again next week.
Sounds great. Enjoy your time. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you very much. And on X, she's at Eleanor Terrett. And once again, the podcast she does is Crypto in America. We are broadcasting live from the Over the Edge event, Union Rescue Mission. Go to urm.org to help Union Rescue Mission, the #1 organization helping the homeless here in Los Angeles, with a very top rating from Charity Navigator. And we will continue here in just a moment. Let's check your ride here on 790 KABC. Afternoon, broadcasting live from the Universal City Hilton Hotel in Universal City, the Over the Edge event, Union Rescue Mission, supported by going to urm.org. Update for the stock market. We're feeling good today. The Dow up 300 points, the S&P 500 of 39, the NASDAQ of 99 points. The yield in the 10-year note at 4.18%. Stocks moved higher today after 3 straight days of losses for the major averages, and looks like the week ended slightly lower by less than 1%. A rough week for cryptos, as we just talked about. Bitcoin moving higher now by about 300, back to 109.5. ETH just above 4,000. Big week for gold, hitting record highs this week, and right now hovering at around 3,789 an ounce. Silver has hit a new 14-year high, above $46 an ounce, of $1.25 today to $46.37, and platinum at $1,611.20 an ounce. And now the latest news on 790 KABC. Good afternoon. What a fantastic day here. We are broadcasting live, doing it live from the Universal Hilton Hotel here in Universal City at the Over the Edge event. Big fundraiser today for the Union Rescue Mission, the #1 organization helping the homeless here in Los Angeles. It's been an amazing day here with all the great folks supporting Union Rescue Mission, and a beautiful reception here right now. Good afternoon, everyone. What a day here. We're following what's happening in the financial markets, too. Mixed day for tech stocks. And joining us now, the biggest name on Wall Street when it comes to tech these days, and that is Dan Ives, Managing Director and Senior Equity Research Analyst at Wedbush Securities, which happens to be headquartered right here in Southern California, also chair of 8Go Holdings. Dan Ives, thank you very much for taking the call here. We got your fan club gathered here this afternoon.
Great to be here, Frank, and hope everything's good.
Everything is great, and we certainly would love your support here for the Union Rescue Mission as well. With Wedbush,
I'll be donating a ton tonight, man.
Thank you for that. That is wonderful news. We do appreciate that, Dan. And of course, the folks have been watching you all week on CNBC and all the financial networks. So, give us an update on how you see things, how this week went with this rebound here at the end of the week.
I mean, Frank, I think, when you think about the NVIDIA OpenAI deal,
Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/secure. Protect yourself now at aura.com/secure.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Skip the traffic and ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express, your direct $2 base fare round-trip ride from the Culver City Transit Center at Westfield, Culver City. Buses run on weekend game days every 20 minutes starting 3 hours before kickoff, with return service beginning at the start of the third quarter. And guess what else? We're hiring. Join our team and help keep the community moving. Visit culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500 for info on your next ride to the game or maybe your next job.
Hey Bruin fans, want to go behind the scenes with your favorite teams and athletes? How about getting exclusive merch and opportunities to enter sweepstakes like sideline access at the Rose Bowl? Introducing Blue and Gold Society, UCLA Athletics fan membership program created to support Bruin student athletes. Members receive benefits like exclusive gear, videos featuring insider stories, and incredible experiences courtesy of UCLA Athletics. Sign up today at blueandgoldsociety.com.
That really is a watershed moment. And I think this is the start of the next phase of this AI revolution playing out. And then you've had some sell-off in Bitcoin and some of the assets, but ultimately, I believe this is a market that's set to go much higher between now and year-end in this risk-on trade, especially as AI takes its next stage.
All right, we saw a pullback in the cryptos this week. What do you make of that? There's talk here that the crypto summer might be over and all kinds of write-ups like that. With Bitcoin, got to around 108. We're looking at 109.5 here at the moment. ETH back to around 4,000, and the list goes on.
Frank, put back on the Bitcoin bathing suit. It's not going to be a crypto winner. I mean, this is what I believe more of a digestion period at quarter end, and I think you're going to see a hard rally in crypto assets going into year end, especially given what we see from an institutional perspective and the regulatory backdrop. I view this as more of a digestion technical sell-off and nothing more.
All right, I see you made some comments on Tesla today. Do you have a new price target on Tesla, and what is your view on Tesla here at the moment?
Yeah, so look, I think this is going to be, along with NVIDIA, one of the best physical AI plays in the market. I mean, to me, they are on the next frontier when it comes to autonomous and robotics. And $600 our price target, and ultimately, I think that could be conservative. Because I think autonomous is worth $1 trillion alone to the stock.
You said 600 price target on Tesla.
600, and Frank, I think that's probably conservative when it all plays out. In terms of my view.
On the live with Dan Ives at Wedbush, we see Tesla stock shares moving of 17 and change today to 440 and change. So that is certainly big news. And what about NVIDIA, which started the week at a record high, is around 179 here at the moment?
I mean, I think NVIDIA, it's going to be $5 trillion. I mean, that's my view in terms of the $5 trillion market cap. I think when you look at some of the demand that's happening on not just from OpenAI, but from sort of this next phase of the AI build-out, there's one chip in the world fueling the AI revolution, it's NVIDIA. And despite some of the worries about China and chips, I just continue to think every time this sells off, you buy it. Because it's my view, we're talking, 225, 250, and that's ultimately where the stock goes, over the next 6 to 9 months.
All right, let's talk about your other enterprise, 8Co Holdings and WorldCoin. What's happening there at what's going on with WorldCoin?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's I continue to believe World is going to be the de facto standard for AI. It's going to be a single sign-on for AI, and that's why our goal is ultimately to buy 800 million WorldCoin tokens. We think it's worth $10 a share, and as that all plays out, I think more and more when you think about the authentication layer, that's something in AI that's going to play a huge role, and that's why we're betting on World and everything Sam Altman and the team have done.
All right, and explain for us authentication. to make sure that you're talking to a human being, right? Orbs is the ticker symbol on 8Co now. You changed it about a week or so ago. What do we need to know about that?
Look, Frank, human proof authentication is going to be a key in the future. And when you think about what this is much more of a tech AI play than a crypto play. You're almost going to have 17 million humans that have signed up for it in terms of verification, in terms of eye scans, relative to orbs. And I think that's just the beginning. We think it's going to 100 million next year. That's why, to me, it's a matter of when, not if. In other words, this is going to be the de facto authentication layer for AI. And I think that it continues to be underappreciated by investors.
All right, we got the new iPhone out. What about Apple here?
I mean, look, we raised our price target there. I think it's one where this is a hidden major upgrade cycle that's happened on iPhone 17. I think Air is going to be an incremental catalyst. And then as the AI story starts to come into play, especially with Google, that's just going to give another, what I think is going to be another $7,500 boost to the stock over next year. I view Apple very similar as I viewed Google 6 to 9 months ago, where now obviously has become consensus. It continues to be a massively mispriced asset.
All right, Oracle getting a lot of attention nowadays, pulling back today here. We had that big pop that sent Larry Ellison to the top of the world's wealthiest people list just about a week or so ago. What about Oracle pulling back nearly 8 today at 283 and change?
I mean, it's one of our top picks. I mean, Oracle is one when it comes to the stack. They're going to continue to monetize more and more in AI. And I think Oracle, if you look at this last quarter, I think that's just a little barometer of what we're going to see in terms of this massive phase of AI spend that's on the horizon. And Oracle is going to and that's why Oracle is one of our key names in the IVES AI 30 ETF.
All right, and what about the Fed speak we heard this week? And, of course, we saw the Fed lower rates by a 1/4 percentage point, and we got that new inflation reading today. How do you take all that in, and what kind of rate cuts are we looking at?
I think we're going to get 2 more rate cuts the rest of the year. And then when you think about you're going to have a new Fed chief coming in May, that's going to be much more dovish. So we could be looking at 4, 5, 6 rate cuts when you think about it over the next, call it 6, 9, 12 months as it all plays out.
Any specific places, Dan Ives, where you would be putting money now and or taking it off the table?
I mean, to me, it continues to be tech. That's where you're doubling down relative to my view, especially going into year end on a lot of these trends, where I think the market continues to underestimate what it's going to look like.
You said it on the air before, tech, and we took that to mean Mottek.
Look, Frank, it's not.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express. Just $2 base fare for a round trip from Westfield Culver City on weekend game days. We're hiring too. Learn more at culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500.
Bruin fans, fall is finally here. That means UCLA football is back in your life. Head out to the Rose Bowl to enjoy America's best tailgating and to make more unforgettable memories with the Bruins. Nico Iamaleava and the Bruins are ready to make an impact this year, and we need you cheering them at the Rose Bowl. Visit UCLABruins.com or call 310-UCLA-WIN to lock in your tickets today. 310-UCLA-WIN.
Hi, I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, host of the Stacking Benjamins podcast. Today, we're going to talk about what if you came across $50,000. What would you do?
Put it into a tax-advantaged retirement account.
The mortgage, that's what we do.
Make a down payment on a home.
Something nice.
Buying a vehicle.
A separate bucket for this addition that we're adding.
$50,000, I'll buy a new podcast
You'll
partner.
buy new friends. And we're done. Thanks for playing, everybody. We're out of here. Stacking Benjamins. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Coincidental that rhymes with your name, because they're both Mottek and Tech. I'm both bullish on into year end.
That's wonderful, Dan. Well, thank you very much. You might have heard some applauding in the background at the beginning here. That was Richard Newcomb, the Vice President of Philanthropy here at Union Rescue Mission, who applauded what you said. We appreciate your support for the Union Rescue Mission. We are broadcasting live here. Your fan club is gathered here at the Universal Hilton Hotel, and thank you so very much for making it a very special event here this afternoon, Dan.
Of course, and Frank, the pink sports jacket is on its way for Mottek. Okay.
Dan, thank you very much. That is Dan Ives, the one and only Dan Ives, the leading tech analyst really in the world at the moment with Wedbush Securities right here in Southern California. He is a managing director and senior equity research analyst at Wedbush, also chair of 8Co Holdings. Dan Ives live with us here on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. All right. Good afternoon. We're doing it live, broadcasting live from the Universal Hilton Hotel in Universal City at the Over the Edge event. Big fundraiser today for the Union Rescue Mission, the #1 organization helping the homeless here in Los Angeles. It has been an absolutely exhilarating day here with Vice President Richard Newcomb rappelling off the side of the 25-story building on live television on Fox 11 this morning with reporter Sandra Endo. That's how the day started. They had their helicopter up, and it was an amazing telecast. This event is raising funds and awareness for the great work being done at the Union Rescue Mission, which is getting people off the streets of Skid Row, including women and children, and doing so with the highest possible rating from Charity Navigator. We gratefully appreciate all of the wonderful support here today. This is a 2-day event, by the way, so if you want to go over the edge, you might have a chance to do it tomorrow. Also, Pink's Hot Dogs is helping URM with proceeds from the sale of one of their best-selling hot dogs going to support Union Rescue Mission and this Over the Edge event. Joining me now is the CEO of the Union Rescue Mission, Mark Hood, also co-host of the Just Help One radio show and podcast, heard every Thursday night on 790 KBC at 6 p.m. and on-demand podcast. Mark Hood, congratulations on a fantastic event here today.
Well, Frank, thanks, and thank you and the whole KBC team for being here and supporting us. You guys came out in force today, and we certainly couldn't do this work without you, so thank you guys for being with us.
What an exhilarating day to see this kind of support for Union Rescue Mission, which is doing amazing work, helping the homeless and really doing the work, going out onto Skid Row, bringing the women and children off the streets.
Well, that's what Union Rescue Mission has been doing for 135 years. And, what we strive to do is every year be better at doing that job than we were the year before. And that's the reason we're focused this year on adding healthy community for our graduates to move into when they leave us. We're working on trades programs, getting people their GEDs, high school diplomas. But the key is this event is, a community event. This is where our sponsors participate with us in helping, people find their way home. And, one of those sponsors that's actually with us today is Dan Hauser and his team from Absurd. And Dan, we'd like to welcome you to the radio station today.
That's great. A giant in the video game world. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that positive feedback, right? Dan, you're terrific. Thank you very much for supporting this great event here.
It's our... I'll try this and get close to the mic. It's our privilege. I connected with the Union Rescue team about 4 or 5 years ago when I moved to LA, and they're very inspiring. They are trying to solve a very intractable problem day by day, person by person, and it's amazing to be able to support them.
And Dan, what I love about not only what you do personally, but your whole team comes out in force. How many people you have here today that's going over the edge?
I think we've got 24 out of a possible 80, and they're on there right now. And my daughter's doing it with me as soon as we wrap up here.
That is just fantastic.
Unless I can find an excuse not to.
You really turned it into a family affair. And, I went in and talked to your team before they went up just to thank them for all you do. And Frank, not only is Dan and the Absurd team here in force to go over the edge, they're also one of the major sponsors of the event. So, again, this really is an event where the sponsors come out to really support what we do.
And Dan Hauser, of course, a giant in the business world, will be one of the keynote speakers at Comic-Con. I'll be there tomorrow, by the way, so looking forward to your presentation. And can't thank you enough for supporting URM. But tell us what got your attention here. URM does such great work and really making a tremendous difference. But tell us about your support. I want you to inspire other business people here.
I moved to LA in about 5 years ago, and if you're not used to living here, you are in possibly the richest city in human history with this intractable problem of people with enormous suffering. And I found it very upsetting and very disturbing. And I connected with friends of mine who work in homeless services in New York, and they introduced me to URM, and it's like a beacon of hope. It's people who are trying to solve the problem one person at a time, who know that these people need 360-degree care, and you can achieve miracles if you do that. And it's just a real privilege to be able to, write them very small checks and them to do amazing things with them. And anyone who comes to LA or lives in LA and goes, this problem can't be solved, it can if the resources are put to the right people.
Well, and Dan, what we appreciate so much about you and your entire team is not only do you support us financially, not only do you come and support these events, but you truly roll up your sleeves. Your team comes out and volunteers at the mission quite often, don't you?
Yeah, we come 3-4 times a year. We should come more. It's been a bit of an intense year for us this year because of the fires. But everyone who comes, the first time in particular they come, they're like, it's a life-changing experience for them because they get to see what life's really about, which is helping people who are having a very tough time. And I think it's the way it brings my team together is invaluable. So any company thinking, what's a good company activity, I strongly recommend volunteering.
Oh, well, thank you so much for that. And I want to tell you a cool story. There was 2 young girls over here that had made signs that they had colored, said, go Dada go, and the other one said, Daddy don't look down. And so I walked up to introduce myself and talk to their mom, and her husband is one of your employees.
Oh, wonderful.
And
which one?
I'm not sure, but she said that he had come down that Friday before Labor Day and volunteered, and she said, I just want to tell you that truly touched his heart. And he came home and said, hey, we have to do that more.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, I think he was. My guess is it was Dave who was just. I think he got down safely.
Oh, that's
it. he's a great guy. He's 2 young kids. Wonderful.
It's good he got down safely.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. Dan, just thank you so much for everything you do for us, and just hope you and your daughter have a great time going down. And if you haven't gone down yet, when I wrap up, I'll go up there and watch you go.
Brilliant. Our privilege, and thank you for all you guys do.
No, thank you so much.
Dan, thank you very much. Huge round of applause here for Dan Hauser, who, by the way, was the genius behind the GTA Grand Theft Auto for the video game fans out there. Will be the keynote speaker tomorrow at Comic-Con at the LA Convention Center. Dan Hauser, wonderful to have you with us. Thank you very, very much for your great support of the Union Rescue Mission.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. And you too can support. Go to urm.org, urm.org. Mark Hood, what an inspiring day here. Rappelling and appealing for help for the Union Rescue Mission. And there goes Dan Hauser and his family getting ready to go over the edge. Dan, Godspeed to you. God bless you, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, it's just amazing, Frank. And days like today, it's really where the community comes out and shows that, sometimes it gets overwhelming to talk about, how many people are homeless and how many people are in the streets. But I do believe that our community is ready for a solution, and I believe so many people see that Union Rescue Mission is. We're getting people off the streets. We put over 1,000 families in permanent housing last year. We're advancing our programs to include education and trades. And so it's just wonderful to see how the community comes out and responds on days like today.
And what a great media turnout as well. This is really a public action campaign. It was wonderful to see so many stations here bringing out their helicopter and showing Richard Newcomb rappelling off the side of the building today with Sandra Endo from Fox 11. Christina Pascucci was here too, award-winning journalist and great supporter of URM and other stations here today, so we gratefully acknowledge that kind of support.
Well, and for those of us that were here to see Sandra and Richard go over the edge, they were the first ones this morning, and I congratulated them when they got to the bottom because they broke a record. It was the longest rappel of all time.
Isn't that something?
Sandra was not excited.
I guess they had a commercial break or something, I heard, and so they kind of slowed down. But it was a magnificent telecast, so for anyone that wants to bring that up, they can check that out as well. And Richard Newcomb, who's here, congratulations, Richard, on that great rappelling and that great appearance today on television.
Thank you, Frank.
It was fantastic.
Thank you, Frank. It's been this might be the best one ever. So great press coverage. We love you guys from KBC and you and Debbie and the team, and just thrilled to have you here poolside for our radiothon. So really excited for all this. Thank you so much for all you do to help us.
It's been an honor, Richard. And let me ask you this. Any updates on how much is being raised here today? Might this be a record breaker here today?
Word has it that we just got a $50,000 gift from someone that supported us last year, and we weren't able to reach, and he just came through with that. And I think we just surpassed the $1.8 million goal. Last year we raised $1,880,000, so I think we're shooting for $2 million. We got a lot of listeners, and Dan Ives said he was going to give us a ton of money. So let's get Dan on the horn, and so we can add it to our website. All right, how's that sound?
That sounds. Congratulations, Richard Newcomb and the entire team here at the Union Rescue Mission. We're at Over the Edge live. See it tonight. Read about it tomorrow, but hear it now on Mottek On Money. Please support Union Rescue Mission. The event continues tomorrow, the Over the Edge event. Go to urm.org to donate to URM and participate. Thank you for joining us live here. Mottek On Money, 790 KABC.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Skip the traffic and ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express, your direct $2 base fare round-trip ride from the Culver City Transit Center at Westfield, Culver City. Buses run on weekend game days every 20 minutes starting 3 hours before kickoff, with return service beginning at the start of the third quarter. And guess what else? We're hiring. Join our team and help keep the community moving. Visit culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500 for info on your next ride to the game or maybe your next job.